Recording in progress.
Morning, colleagues.
Morning, Chair.
Morning, colleagues. Is Valerie in already?
Yes, Chair, I've been online.
Okay. Let me take this moment to greet everyone on the platform and welcome you to this meeting and indicate I know colleagues, especially colleagues from the department, you would have expected before yesterday that this meeting was going to be physical, but just precisely because you had removed one of the items, which was a major item for this meeting, we then felt it appropriate as a collective that perhaps we must have this meeting virtually. And I know we might have inconvenienced some of you. I think we take a responsibility for that, and in as much as we believe you also as a department have a share in that, we apologize for whatever inconvenience that would have been caused in this particular regard. But the meeting will still go on. If you could project Val with the agenda.
Chair, it's
Yeah,
in front. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it now. And in this regard, I'm going to request the department to, without wasting time, colleagues, the department to come in. Maybe we must take apologies, Valerie, for record.
Yes, Chair. From the department side, the minister submitted an apology and indicated that the acting DG, Mr. Mokonyana, will lead the delegation. From the committee side, apologies were received from Ms. Kobe and Dr. Hunsinger. Dr. Hunsinger is deployed for party business and he submitted an apology that's effective until July.
Okay. Those are the two apologies in our part, if we could note them. Mr. Mukonyan, you are going to be leading the department in this meeting. If you could, from your part, indicate if there is any apology, except that of the minister and the deputy minister that you have noted.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and good morning to honorable members of the Portfolio Committee. Chair, I would want to believe that on our side, we will have myself obviously leading the delegation. Delegation being the delegation of two with me and the colleague from public transport, Ms. Kibi Manana, who's on the platform. As the acting DG for public transport. Thank you very much, Chair. So certainly, and we also have Nicholas, the PLO, and obviously, Chair, we do not then register any apology. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Matawata. In that regard, you are going to request you to take us through your presentation. And I'm going to request Mr. Malumata to stand in for me. I'm struggling a bit with connectivity where I am. So I'm going to request that to preside over the meeting for a while when I'm sorting myself this side. Is that fine, Mr. Malumata?
No, thank you so much. We'll do so. Thank you so much, Chair. I think let's continue department as the Chair has requested us to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Acting Chair, and the members. Once again, we are honored to come and present to you the Public Transport Network Grant, PTNG, and I am accompanied by, like I said, Kibi Manana, who's the Chief Director responsible for IPTNs, but then currently also assisting as Acting DG for Public Transport. Chairperson, if we are allowed, she will then be doing the presentation. We will just give a short background and then we'll assist later on with the Q&A. Chair, the Public Transport Network Grant, as we know it, is a PTNG. It started some times back around when the country was preparing for the 2010 World Cup. It was called the PTISG, primarily to create a grant to improve infrastructure and systems in the transport space to enable the country to host a successful World Cup. That also informs why the chosen 13 cities initially. Those were the cities that were bidding for the hosting of the games. That was what informed the list. But basically, they were then some of the city centers where we had to pilot the introduction of the IPTNs in the country as pronounced in the strategy of 2007, the public transport strategy of 2007. Fast forward to today, Chair, the grant continued because our aim with the improvement for 2010 was that we needed to create systems and obviously infrastructure that would then be sustained beyond 2010. Hence, we then now are still having this grant. Ms. Kibi Manana will then take you through the details around the grant, how it performs, some of the lessons learned, including challenges, and how we are intervening to deal with the challenges that are there, and the way forward regarding the grant. Thank you, Chairperson. If we are allowed to, Ms. Manana will then take the committee through the presentation.
Permission granted, sir. Thank you.
Thanks. Kibi?
Thank you, Acting DG, and thank you to the Chairperson of the committee, and also good morning to all the members of the committee. Can we move to the next slide? So our presentation will just highlight implementation progress. We'll look at the grant itself, how it is performing, particularly in 24-25. We'll touch on challenges and what we're doing to respond to those challenges through interventions, and then conclude with the way forward. Next slide. The program was started, as Mr. Mokonyama said, as an attempt to try and transform public transport and urban spaces in the country. And we seek to also make sure that poor communities have access to services, to also transform the minibus taxi industry. As you will also realize, it is one of the main programs that's really prioritizing universal accessibility. It's also looking at safety, security, and the service quality of public transport services. We seek to also make sure that we promote modal integration across all modes, rail basically remaining the backbone, and making sure that we maximize on those efficiencies of each mode. And also then we give effect to a number of policy goals in different documents as highlighted there. The program proposes an integrated public transport system vision. And really it's one network with one ticket. Then with one ticket, you're able to travel seamlessly across different modes. And the one network, let me just highlight that it consists of the different modes, your rail being the backbone, your bus services and taxi modes. We'll also then look at integrating walking and cycling, or NMT, within that, with one ticket, one timetable, integrated to basically also enable that continued seamless travel, where possible, the same brand, so that a passenger can be assured that if they are on rail with that particular brand, it is the same across all modes. And then lastly, also one standard. And we also look at making sure that each mode holds together before we can then bring it onto the network. And that it also must then play the role that it's supposed to play. And that physical integration as well will then ensure that your pedestrian precincts are also accessible in line with the access to those different modes. Let's go to the next slide. In terms of implementation progress, we're just going to touch on a few KPIs. We start with the ridership numbers. The slide highlights the different municipalities that are operational, the 9, and we then touch on the different passenger numbers. As you will see, we're moving approximately about 44 million passengers, and in the slide you can see which city is the highest and which one is the lowest. Mangaung, not Mangaung, I think Nelson Mandela Bay being the lowest, and it's largely due to, even though Mangaung came after Nelson Mandela Bay had their services suspended for some time due to challenges within the VOC and the lack of maintenance of their fleet by the VOC. The city, even though it's City of Cape Town, even though it's carrying the biggest number of passengers. They are all still, like similar to other cities, they're all delayed. And when you think about the amount of money that we're putting into Cape Town through the BFI, we're supposed to be getting more passengers than what is reflected there. The services operate on average between 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock. You do have municipalities that operate beyond 9 o'clock, like Ekurhuleni, because they operate an airport service. Can we move to the next slide? Still on just touching on ridership. Here we're just highlighting which cities are operational and which ones are not. In terms of the ones that are not operational, we still have Mbombela and Buffalo suspended, and we then have Msunduzi that has been pre-admitted, as well as eThekwini. Both the two cities, we're hoping that they should be operational before the beginning of, 26, 27. Let's go to the next slide. The next area that we're looking at in terms of performance is accessibility. As I said, the services are supposed to be accessible for people with disabilities, women, elderly people, children, and those accompanying the children. And there's a plan that every city must develop, a UADP plan, and that plan that makes sure that buses are accessible, infrastructure is accessible, there's passenger information, there's signage, as well as websites and apps for especially for people with disabilities. Drivers in the system undergo annual training to make sure that they are responsive to people with disabilities. And also, as part of accessibility, the grant promotes walking, as well as making sure that there is improved cycling infrastructure. Next slide. Another key performance indicator is really around transformation. As we indicated, that one of the goals was to transform the minibus taxi industry. And we're just highlighting the different vehicle operating companies that have been established across all those municipalities. All in all, there are 14 VOCs. And we also then highlight which ones are owned by the taxi industry 100%, and which ones are a combination of the taxi industry and the bus industry. Next slide. We then also just highlight other notable milestones and achievements. I think of critical importance is the introduction of a transversal contract for bus procurement. And this really will go a long way into making sure that we deal with abuse and misuse of funds. We've had two or three forensic investigations where bus procurement was an issue. And also one of the smallest municipalities that actually joined the grant late has actually also launched a service to Thembalethu after a number of challenges. Arieng is going into Mamelodi. They've just basically finalized a vehicle operating company agreement. And my city will be going to the Metro Southeast. And these areas are mostly, townships, because Cabinet had said we should move to townships. And then Rustenburg also looked at, while we had challenges with bus procurement, then they were quite innovative. They took the current vehicles and used them as feeders. And this is just an interim solution. Most of them are branded with the Arieng brand. And now they're looking at even putting in AFC within those vehicles. Mangaung, being one of the cities that was had been delayed, has now launched. And what we're seeing there is we've got a number of, the patronage is quite good. And the challenge really is buses. And we're looking at, we're assisting them to get additional buses. And lastly, we will be introducing electric buses in Cape Town in 2027. Thank you. Can we move to the next slide? Just looking at the performance of the grant, we are highlighting the different cities and their expenditure. to date. Firstly, we must just indicate that there was an adjustment process. We just concluded one, and there were about 4 municipalities that we stopped or they surrendered their allocation. Cape Town being one, they requested to reschedule, yes, their BFI drawings as part of their, cash projections. And at eThekwini, we've had challenges with the implementation of the IPTN, and because of non-performance and not complying with grant conditions, we then had to withhold 670 million. Part of that money went to George because George is a very it's similar to a build and operate and build model, but now with the services operational, they now need to rehabilitate their infrastructure. We returned or we stopped money from Johannesburg, also not complying with grant conditions, and also Mangaung due to non-performance, and Polokwane. Those were the amounts that were returned to the grant. And part of that money was then given to Rustenburg because Rustenburg needs to move to the next phase, but then they need to complete the compensation of operators in the current phase that they're operating. So we then identified some savings to give to them. And in terms of expenditure, it varies. All in all, as you will see from the slide, the grant is not doing very well. We are at 19%, but normally between May and June, the percentage will increase. And I think largely the reason why it's also it's that low. Most of the municipalities have got rollover as well, so they're spending their current allocation as well as their rollover, and we are working quite tightly with municipalities to make sure that their spending improves. So we are concerned around with Msunduzi at 7%, but we also recognize that because they're still on the pre-readmission stage and they've had challenges with their technical capacity, we're hoping that going forward we should see better performance. Can we move to the next slide? As I highlighted, it's 5 cities that basically return money. We didn't highlight Johannesburg here, but in terms of the city of Cape Town, they then requested to reschedule their allocation for BFI with National Treasury's permission. We were not involved in this, and they basically cited different reasons, issues around business fora challenges, in the city, and the other 3 municipalities, Polokwane, Mangaung, and eThekwini, as I said, it's been largely around non-performance and really not complying with grant conditions. With eThekwini, because we are in discussions with them, and also through the intervention of the Presidential eThekwini Working Group, we're currently busy finalizing their possibility of a rollover. Depending on whether what they have said they've committed is verified. Our technical team is busy verifying that, and hopefully before the end of this week we'll know whether we'll be then able to give them the 303 or only the verified amount as committed by the technical team. Can we move to the next slide? I will then touch on challenges. These are not the only ones, but these are really the main ones that you will find cutting across all municipalities. And it's the first one is really capacity in municipalities to plan, to implement, as well as manage public transport systems. That's a very critical one. And as a result, then municipalities tend to rely largely on PMUs. And most times, some of the PMUs are not even appropriately skilled. Municipalities also experience challenges with regard to industry transition. This is now related to onboarding the minibus taxi industry. In most instances, these processes are characterized by prolonged engagements and negotiations, and also just challenges within the industry also coming into the space. Challenges around infighting, violence, also causes delaying, and also poor management of vehicle operating companies. I think in 2 municipalities where we've had challenges, you find that they operate like they're in an association, despite having received training. But also what we're learning from that is maybe we need to do, not maybe, we will be doing more in terms of making sure that the industry is better capacitated, and that at the end of the 12 years, they are then able to even tender for more work, even during the 12 years, that they're even able to identify other business opportunities and tender for that. The grant is also characterized by mismanagement and misuse of funds and wastage. There have been a number of forensic investigations that have been undertaken in different cities. The cities also tend to overspecify, because being the nature of the grant, being an infrastructure grant, they tend to overspecify and overdesign infrastructure, and then on top of that, they don't even maintain the infrastructure properly. And also then there's the common one of non-compliance with grant conditions. I'll now discuss the different interventions. Can we move to the next slide? That are seeking to address these challenges that I've just highlighted. And we've listed them around 9 interventions. We can go to the next slide. The first one being what we call a differentiated approach. And this slide basically just highlights the program that we have in the department. We call it a PTNG suite of offerings. And basically it recognizes the different typologies of municipalities. And it then proposes that we can then not in all municipalities, we cannot have BRTs. We need to then also look at, and in all municipalities, firstly, maybe let's start first with rail, that in all municipalities we cannot have rail. It's only your bigger metros where you will then have rail as the backbone. And moving to bus services, you will then have your bus rapid transit, and even that you cannot have it in your smaller municipalities, but mostly in your bigger metros, but not even everywhere in your bigger metros, only in those areas where you can justify because of the passenger numbers that are there to have a BRT. And then we've also introduced what we call a quality public transport system. And that already you will find in municipalities like Nelson Mandela Bay, Mangaung, Rustenburg, George, Polokwane, and Sunduzi. And also we recognize that with other, in other areas within those cities, you may not necessarily be able to roll out a QBS, but that you then can have just a normal bus conventional system, as well as taxi services. Across all these different offerings, we recognize that you would also then have to look at infrastructure. In some areas, you will just have basic infrastructure, your shelter and bus stop, and ITS as well. You may have, what we call automated public transport management systems, not in all municipalities, but, in your bigger ones, and in others, maybe just have a tracking system on buses and taxis, and even the type of vehicles that will differ. And also the business model that will differ. So this already we are implementing, but one of the things that we need to do is to just make sure that we're enforcing it. Can we go to the next slide? In dealing with the mismanagement of the grant, we basically rely largely on the Division of Revenue Act and what it provides for us. And to make sure that there is compliance with grant framework and conditions. And where there is no compliance, The DORA enables us to withhold, to stop, to suspend. As we have indicated, we've suspended 2 cities. There were 3, but now only 2 are still suspended, and also then conduct forensic investigations. And I think the critical thing is beyond just conducting the investigation is making sure that we follow up on implementation of recommendations by city councils. Some other grant reforms that we have also introduced, we have incentivized performance better. Currently in the grant, we only had, not currently, I think last year, 24-25, it's still coming to an end in June. We have an incentive portion of the grant standing at 5%. We're increasing that to 10%. Over 3 years, we will then be increasing it to 30%. And this is aimed to really incentivize a better performance. And we're also setting thresholds, and we are introducing other transversal contracts. We've already started with bus procurement, and we'll be then moving to automated fare collection systems. And basically, these are areas that we're saying that there's a tendency for wastage, and we just want to make sure with these thresholds that we get value for money. And also we are introducing certain thresholds, like certain areas where we then, like PMUs, we've said it will not be it cannot be more than 5% of your allocation. And within that, if that then includes also planning, because we tend to see that municipalities tend to waste a lot of money around work streams like that. So setting thresholds will go a long way to deal with challenges. Next slide. This is okay, so we're also facilitating peer learning workshops for all municipalities. Normally, every year annually, we would then have a peer, like now in July, we would have one where cities present and other cities then critique them and give them feedback. And we also have deep dives where we have our technical team assisting us in also evaluating those PTNG applications. We do this largely with Treasury as a collaboration through the City Support Program. And we then also require municipalities to come and report amongst all their peers on how they're doing in terms of their operations, and other cities then give them feedback. And where there's a need, we then also arrange city-to-city peer reviews. Like recently, we had one between George as well as Mangaung for 2 days. And also we've bolstered our monitoring capacity. As a department, we appointed a technical advisory team that's assisting us with monitoring, and we've also established a panel of experts across 11 work streams in the IPTN program, and these experts also assist us in providing technical support where required to municipalities. We've also developed new tools to improve monitoring, and the next slide just highlights some of the tools that we have, where we're able to compare. We've developed this comparative assessment dashboard. It looks at different key performance indicators. We'll look at passenger numbers. We'll look at within operations that different KPIs, and then also financial sustainability and delivery. And for each of those, we will then be tracking performance over the years per municipality, and we're even able to compare cities, and we're able to highlight areas where we need to intervene, or also, like for example, through this, we're able to note that we needed to set certain thresholds because cities were just being wasteful. Can we move to the next? And even through this, it then also allows us to know which areas we should be targeting for deep dives to understand fully what is going on in those areas. Some of the current interventions, as I indicated, with the vehicle operating company, we've now just appointed a company as part of the panel of experts to do a status assessment of all VOCs in the country, because we just want to make sure that we fully understand the state in those VOCs, just based on Rea Vaya's Piotrans experience. We had been warned about Piotrans, and we warned the city, and the city chose to take a very hands-off approach. And now one of the things that we're looking at is to see how our oversight role, especially at the city level, being the contracting authority with the VOC, that it's better, and that we then don't have a repeat of what happened with Piotrans in Rea Vaya. And we also will be developing an incubation program that will empower operators. And this program won't be a just once-off program. We're looking at assessing and reviewing the VOCs over the 12-year period to make sure that at the end of before the end of the 12 years, we don't have VOCs coming and saying we were not empowered, that we'll be able to track the empowerment throughout the period where there are challenges. Some intervention must then be made to make sure that the industry is empowered at the end of the 12 years. And it really differs from city to city. Other municipalities are doing very well, and some of them are now diversifying their income streams rather than only just focusing on operations. They're also looking at, like in one particular city, one VOC won a tender in another city, and basically, so you do have those green shoots across the program. It's not doom and gloom across all municipalities, but we are basically just making sure that in those cities where there are issues, we must be dealing with them so that we avoid any repeat. We've also conducted an IPTN review, and we looked at some of the challenges, why we are not moving, and what we must be doing better to make sure that we move the needle in terms of improving public transport in the country. And can we go to the next slide? We are undertaking assessment of cities. We started this, with all these underperforming municipalities. For example, we started in Mangaung. We went with the deputy minister there, followed by Polokwane, and currently we just, in this month of May, we just completed our Gauteng cities. We're now targeting to go to Rustenburg, and basically we're just making sure that we fully understand where the challenges are, especially Gauteng cities being, major metropolitan municipalities, and yet they're not performing so well when you look at them in relation to other smaller municipalities. And this includes weekly meetings where there's a dashboard, and we basically monitor that dashboard, and we also are then conducting periodic site visits. Out of this assessment, we then come up with an intervention program for that particular municipality, where we either deploy an intervention team, depending on which work streams the municipality is weak in, to provide that technical support, and also make sure that we build and strengthen internal capacity within those municipalities. Can we move to the next slide? These are additional interventions that we have planned. As we indicated, we're wanting to move towards incentivizing decarbonization. Already in our grant framework, we are allowing for municipalities to procure battery electric buses as well as low emission buses. And this has been achieved even through the transversal contract that I highlighted that we have established with Treasury. Within that, we specified for both battery electric buses as well as low emission buses. Low emission vehicles. Yes, I think it's Euro 6 for diesel, and we're also, I think I indicated this, that we'll be introducing new contracts, and we'll also be looking at other ways of funding minibus taxi improvement initiatives, and then also establishing different communities of practice. We have one already for the minibus taxi industry, because we've identified that as one of the key challenges for the city. So, and this is a collaboration between us and the National Treasury through the City Support Program, and we will then be also, establishing other communities of practice. Can we go to the next slide? In conclusion, Minister has directed that we need to overhaul the public transport grants, and this basically includes a review to repurpose the grants. And as part of the review, we're looking at consolidating and integrating the public transport network grant as well as the public transport operations grant. To some extent, in a practical way, we've started to do that for example, in the city of Tshwane, where the contracts or the services to Mamelodi are actually from the public transport operations grant. And those contracts are now integrated into the IPTN. And this seeks to make sure that we achieve, efficiencies, and the grant is effective and we stop wastage. In addition to this, we're also looking at bringing in the taxi recap funding, where we will be consolidating it into the public transport grants, and we're exploring ways to reduce or de-risk the high financing costs for new taxi vehicles. And also in terms of the modalities of how we will do this, we are still in discussions, and we move to also want to enforce the directive for municipalities to scale down on infrastructure, and promoting the operate and build later model, and enforcing the differentiated approach that promotes rail as a backbone in selected metros. And we're seeking to also phase out BRTs and move to quality bus services across all municipalities. And even when, where there is BRTs, that we will not just allow municipalities to just build for the sake of building. It has to be motivated by real numbers and not projected numbers. It is one of the things that we have learned from the past experience, and we'll continue to also implement key interventions that we've highlighted, and any other new interventions that we may identify as needed. And lastly, making sure that we develop a capacity building program across the 3 spheres. And currently, as we do assessments in municipalities, we then look at assessing capacity. And out of that, we'll then be able to do a program that will benefit everyone. We've actually are in discussions already with the University of Pretoria and University of Cape Town, because they offer courses on public transport planning, management and operations. And we now want to ask them to develop a tailor-made program, taking into consideration some of the challenges in municipalities. But for now, we're encouraging municipalities to, at least as a start, attend those courses. And that will go a long way in terms of just them having a basic understanding of what public transport is, the planning, the management, as well as the operations, as well as contract management. I think that's the end, Acting DG and Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kiwi. Chair, basically that is our presentation. One was tempted to amplify a number of issues, but maybe we need to wait for the Q&A. But Chair, we lay bare the challenges, but we then put together programs that would allow us to intervene pretty much detecting challenges fast enough, launching intervention programs, but even also dealing with going down to the ground and make sure that we work with municipalities. There's just other things that we may not do as national chairperson. We provide policy direction, we develop strategies, we provide guidelines, we manage the grant. But it is just not possible to do with, and we do capacity building extensively. But you can, it's very important, impossible to deal with some of the issues that are in the purview and authority of the cities. As an example, you can train Mukonyama today in City X. And then 2 months down the line, Mukonyama is no longer there, it's been removed. There's a new person. There's nothing we can do around that, but we can only then train the new person. So this is what is causing some of the delays. We have also noticed that the tax industry, this thing called industry transition, they need to be held by hands. One, negotiating a better deal in terms of the VOC, but also at the very beginning indicate the implications after the first 12 years of the contract. But then also within the VOC, they should be embedded in the rigorous training program to ensure that they transit into being business people. And then the last thing I wanted to indicate, withholding of funds is a process, Chairperson, and it's articulated in DORA. So we don't just withhold. We talk, we warn the cities, we allow them to improve, and then we withhold. Even withholding is for a limited period, upon which we then allow them to also improve. If there is no improve, then the money is surrendered. And all of this, we work with the National Treasury. So these cities that monies have been withheld, unfortunately, it's as a result of a slow pace, non-performance, non-adherence to DORA conditions. Even with the city of Cape Town. And this is how they then were able to do it properly. They knew that they're not going to spend the money that is allocated within that year. Now, the proper accounting principle will then be to alert the transferring officer and obviously the National Treasury to return money, but that money with the condition that it will be made available when it is needed in future years. So it's basically the same thing of an expenditure. And if you see the table on this expenditure now, the expenditure is worrying. Unfortunately, you cannot push the cities to accelerate expenditure. You need to push the cities to spend on the correct things. So that is a delicate space to maneuver. You cannot just say you're not spending, spend. You need to say to them, you're not spending, but also probably we improve on spending because we want you to operate, but do it the right way. And then the biggest take home will then be this issue around transversal. We don't and we cannot, and we will not be tempted to participate in their procurement processes, be in their bid committees, evaluation committees. We don't. We're not going to do that as the national department. And that is where some of these challenges are. Unfortunately, these are matters of the PFMA and MFMA. That's where some of the challenges are. But where there are similar or homogeneous products like buses, AFC, we might go into maintenance. We then have agreed that we shall have transversal contracts so that they are able to pick at the RT contracts of National Treasury. They are able to then participate and pick suppliers in there. Because you find one city buying a bus at 3 million, the other buying a bus at 8 million, the same, more or less the same bus. So there were those challenges which we are with transversal contracting dealing with it, Chairperson. Those are the things that I really wanted to amplify. But Chair, we are more than happy then to take the questions. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Members, let's take questions without further ado, taking into account time. I will see by show of hands. I don't see any hands. I want to, let's, Honorable Nkombani, you will be number one. Staden, you will be number two. I'm writing down. Honorable Maduna, you will be number three. Maduna, number three. I'm not sure of Mushome.
Oh, Kimutuvat.
Oh, Mutuvatsi, please, man. Excuse about that. Honorable Mutuvatsi, Honorable Mazui, you will follow Comrade. Honorable Mutuvatsi. Tamsanga, Mapena, you will follow Champion. Mapena, Champion outside top 8 will follow. Then Comrade Honorable Makashule, will follow. And the last one will be Honorable Thebo Montana. Honorable Montana, you will be the last. Then I will rep as a chair. In Miguel's studio namhlanje uyobamza. But abanye angifuni ama preambles. Let's shoot straight to the report. They know you. Let's start. Honorable Nkombani.
Thank you, Honorable Acting Chair. Good morning to you and all the members and the platform. Chair, I'm starting with starting the middle with slide number 8 of the presentation. Am I correct to say one of the challenges of implementing IPTN is the shortage of bus ownership? If so, how do we then plan to overcome this matter of lack of bus ownership? Those are the two first questions. Then the second one is on slide number 9. Chair, there's something that is worrisome when the management and the department is saying they were involved in the processes of rescheduling. But now there's one thing that is glaring here. I would like to know, why were the funds rescheduled on the budget facility for infrastructure allocation committed to the other financial year in Cape Town? Thank you, Chair.
It's Honorable Staden.
Thank you, Chairperson. Now, I just want to make a comment on what was on the presentation of this morning. A few months ago, I went to the Rustenburg area to conduct visits to various clinics and hospitals there. And on the road to, I think it was the R556, I'm not completely sure, I can't remember correctly. I've just tried to look it up now, but I can't find my notes. It's actually in the Moses Katane municipality. The BRT development there, you could see, has come to completely to a standstill for many years. And in fact, the structures which has been erected and has been standing still now, it's getting to in a form of that it's dilapidated completely. So I just want to bring this under the attention of the presenters and to this committee. I know it's provincial and municipalities who's responsible for that, but I think we must intervention from the department side, from national, to see to it that these sort of practices don't happen is urgently needed. Thank you, Chairperson.
No, thank you so much. Short and straight to the point. Honorable Maduna.
No, thanks, Chair. I will be very short. No, Chair, given that we are on slide 5 of the presentation, it's just one straightforward short question. I see that there were delays in the operation of eThekwini and Umsund routes and transportation services. So I just wanted to check, Chair, the root causes of these delays. Thanks, Chair.
Maduna.
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair. I'm done. Just one straightforward question, Chair. That was the question.
You've been short this time. Comrade Mutubat. Honorable Mutubat, sorry about that.
No. Thanks. No, you are still a friend, a comrade. No, thanks, Chairperson. Chairperson, I don't have short questions. One, what are the challenges in Nelson Mandela? Because the presenter just spoke to the challenges, but what are the real challenges? Secondly, is with Yarona in Rustenburg. What bus services partake in the program? Like the previous speaker have said, I've got experience of that dilapidated bus system that actually has fallen away. What are the bus services that are involved in? With regard to Cape Town, can I be assured that today, when I'm in Cape Town, I can use the seamless system that we spoke about? Or maybe I be clarified where it is fully operational seamlessly. The next question, why Cape Town? Why is everything Cape Town? Because this doesn't give me a sense that we are serious about transformation that must be focused to the form, I mean our people, and where transformations usually take place. Because if you are going to do everything in Cape Town, your measurement of success would be a lazy one. Because if you are going to tell me that no, here we have infrastructure. Now, my question is, why Cape Town? Secondly, you are saying that the electric buses will be introduced in 2027, again, in Cape Town. Why is that? Right, I want to jump this one of building capacity, because you spoke to it at the end of your slide, what the interventions you are going to do. Where there are issues of mismanagement, you say that you suspend the grant, you no longer release the fund. Is this not throwing the water with the child, like it is normally said? Are there any other ways in which, when individuals, because you can identify these are the individuals that have done 1, 2, 3, which is not according to the book, you suspend them? But then, are there any other ways in which the program can continue without suspending the whole program? And where mismanagement have been identified, are there any cases where disciplinary process have taken place, and what are the outcomes in that regard? When I want to take it that this is a project. Now, in the project, you'll have a project leader. The project team will identify these are the challenges that we are likely to have. And I mean, when you work on a project, it's the start period, is the end period, and in between will be, successes that will be identified, will be the slowdown. People who deal with the project will be able to identify those and make the necessary interventions. Now, you are saying here that you are now going to get specialists to come in and help on problems that you already know. Why is that? Are you telling me that the project team and the project leader have failed in their duties to deal with those aspects? Because those are the things that could have been identified at the beginning of the project. You'll have specialists in this regard. Now, why are you wasting money to have other people to come in? Are you telling me that we must not do away with people who have been employed by the state to deal with these matters and then get private companies to come and assist? If that is the case, then I'm being told by this presentation that people who are there don't have a reason to be there. From your last slides and the intervention of the minister, can I detect from what you are doing now that this is a tactical retreat? You are just saying to me, sitting here, that the project doesn't have the prospects of success in the state in which it is. Therefore, we are going to do reintegration. Is this what the team in the way forward, is it what it is telling us as the portfolio committee that indeed this is what we are going to do? Therefore, if that is my reading of the situation, why must we then continue with the other project that we are planning ahead? Is this last slide telling me that we are folding? And if we are folding, we must be clear and open that, look, we are folding. In all the municipalities, we are going to restart this whole program. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mashumi. Honorable Murphy. Murphy.
Yes. No, thanks, Chair. I'm not going to be too long, Chair, I promise. Greetings to the acting DG and members on the platform. Chair, maybe let me start. For me, I think I'm very disappointed that the minister is not here, because what we are dealing with here is a very sensitive issue that deals with critical aspects in terms of trying to integrate safe and reliable transport for our people. Now, the fundamentals, Chair, is that the cost for transportation on our people on the ground is extremely expensive for them to travel to get to work in other areas. But it seems as if what the department is trying to do is met with challenges, and they do not seem to want to own up to these challenges. And there are going to be delays in trying to achieve what we are trying to achieve with our people. And the issues are going to get worse, Chair, with the proposed fuel levy going up and all of that. So our people are really going to struggle. Now, if you look, Chair, the minister should have been here so that she is able to tell us what are the challenges that are in eThekwini. Because I see that the department is failing to get the transport system, the integrated transport system of eThekwini to go live. And now they are pulling the city by withholding the grants. Because this is what the department is doing. If there are challenges within a municipality, they are unable to resolve those challenges, to get to the crux of the matter, to say, what are the challenges here? These are the proposed solutions. Then they just withhold money and bully the cities to go and solve those problems, only to find that by withholding the grant, you are then creating further problems for the cities. Now, Chair, in terms of ownership or in terms of participation, because part of the integrated transport system is transformation. We want to transform the transport sector, but also get the minibus operators to participate in this integrated transport system. One of the reasons why eThekwini is not operational is because they are unable to find each other with the minibus transport operators. And that's what is at play there. And the department is not coming forward, because now the minister has issued an instruction that they are giving eThekwini 12 months to operate. But I can tell you now that after 12 months, that transport network of eThekwini will not be functional, because they are unable to find each other in terms of how then do the minibus operators participate in this network. You go and give them a contract that is 3, 5, 6. Well, in Cape Town it's 12 years, in other cities it's not. To say, come in as minibus operators and participate and be within these buses. It's either you are an operator, or we give you a certain share of ownership and all of that. But what happens after the contract has expired? What then is it in it for the minibus operators who must do away with their routes, who must do away with their minibuses? What is the department doing to capacitate them or to ensure that they remain in the system and they remain operational and they are able to feed their families? And that's where the problem is. Because in Cape Town, and that's why we have a problem in Cape Town, because Cape Town always seems to have a preference than any other city. Because you've got the Golden Arrow bus services in Cape Town, which is GAPS, which has got an unending contract with the department. They are operating those buses, they are managing those buses. But the minibus operators are nowhere to be seen in participating so that they are able to feed their families. So I want the department to speak to us to say, how then are you integrating the minibus operators, not just on a short-term contractual basis, but in the long run, so that they are able to sustain themselves and their families in the long run? Because for someone to do away with their route, to do away with their taxi, only for them to have a 3-year or 5-year or even 12-year contract, and after that they've got nothing that they will be able to put their to put food on the table. That's where one of the challenges is, Chair. If you look at the N2 Express, Chair, between Khayelitsha and Cape Town, it says to us that 33% is owned by minibus taxis. But I can tell you now, Chair, that also that route is also managed by Golden Arrow Bus Services. And the minibus taxi operators just receive dividends. So in terms of transformation, it does not assist us, because the minibus taxi operators are supposed to participate fully, not just by receiving dividend shares, because they are saying that they are owning 33% of the entire network. No, but they must be given operational rights so that they are able to operate and learn the skill, so that they can also be used effectively by the department, so that we are able to achieve our transformation goals that we want. If you go and look at page 14, Chair, it's exactly what I'm talking about in terms of the bus rapid transport, where the minibus operators in Cape Town are just given a 12-year contract to operate. But what happens when the contract ends? Because Golden Arrow Bus Services, Bono, on the other hand, they don't have a yearly contract or anything. It's just open-ended. They've been operating these buses since 1994, if I may put it that way. While they still had Padco and Golden Arrow buses and all of those things. So we must be able to look into that. Also, Chair, if we could actually get the cost to date on this public transport grant, I see that the expenditure is very low across all cities. But again, I don't think that we just need to narrow it down, that the expenditure in the cities is low. We must be able to fully understand the challenges of the non-spending in the cities. So we can't just be told that there are challenges, therefore there's non-spending, but we must be able to give in details to say, in eThekwini, this is the challenges that is stopping them from spending. Because you remember, Chair, that the minibus operators, the taxi owners, are always accused of being hooligans and of being violent. And sometimes you'll find that the network is stopped from operating or being constructed because of those disagreements. When the taxi operators come and say that this network must stop because us and the department or us and the city don't agree with each other in terms of how we're going to be integrated in the system. Not that they don't want this integrated transport, but they are saying that they do not feel that they are fully involved in terms of how they must benefit in the entire network. So I want the department to actually expressly explain to us how then are they making sure that the minibus taxi operators benefit in this entire network? And lastly, Chair, the entire food chain, I do not think that it is feasible for the disabled communities, especially those with wheelchairs and those with visually impaired deficiencies. Because for someone, the My City or the Rea Vaya might have access to wheelchair buses, which we appreciate. But what then happens, we must be able to see from the time that this person leaves home up until they get to their destination, if the entire network is feasible for them to actually use it. How then do they leave home to get to the bus stop for them to use the bus? After they depart the bus, is then the network also user friendly for them to continue and reach their destination? So I'd like also the department to speak to that, to say, can the disabled community fully benefit from this network from their point of departure to their destination? Is it actually user friendly, or is just when you reach the bus stop and you get into the bus, and after you depart the bus, also the department doesn't really provide a network for them to be able to fully use it? Thank you very much, Chipes.
No, thank you so much. Let's go to Honorable Mabena.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much to the department, and I think the presenter I'm hearing here for the first time, unless if maybe in the previous times she was in the background, but maybe the department is trying to soften us up with doing the presentation. The first one, Chair, maybe let's assist. The city of Cape Town actually has the highest number of passengers, which they are transporting almost 20 million passengers, which is almost half of the entire 44 million passengers which are being transported by the BRT buses. So one would say, and also in terms of the expenditure, they've got the second highest expenditure in terms of 59%. The first one obviously is Etewin, but Etewin, as you know, is characterized by its challenges. But the one city that is actually moving passengers, almost 20 million passengers, which, as I said, accounts for almost half of the entire 44 million passengers. I think that's something that we should actually encourage. We should also ask them, although they've got their own challenges as well, as the department has said here, with regards to the BFI, the budget facility for infrastructure having been gotten the concurrence from the from Treasury. But one thing that perhaps one wants to also mention, the challenges of the PMUs is not something that is new. And everything that the department is saying today, the department has consistently been saying that even in the previous term. Let me give you a simple example why I'm saying so. We undertook an oversight in the previous term. We went to Northwest and we went to Bloemfontein for the IPTN, especially for this public transport network grant that we're speaking about today. Everything that is in this presentation is everything that we discovered, and that was in 2021. So now it's how many years later? 4 years later, still the same challenges. Exactly what the DDG is saying, that the municipalities don't have capacity. You get there, you find someone else. But I think it's something that the department needs to, you can't just fold our arms, because remember, even in the previous portfolio committee meetings, we pushed specifically that the department must establish a unit, a follow the money program, basically based on all of these things. And what we discovered when we went to Bloemfontein and Northwest was actually quite embarrassing, to say the least, because in the Northwest, we discovered that in 2019, a BRT station was built even before passengers could actually use it. It collapsed. Even before it was commissioned. Money of taxpayers down the drain. In Mangaung, they bought 10 buses in 2021 for 5.5 million rands, which was heavily inflated. So all I'm saying that all of the issues that are identified by the department in this report are not new issues, including the issues of the transition. Because what we also heard was that the taxi industry does agree with the department that they're going to surrender specific roads. After they create these companies, they surrender the routes, but then they come and encroach on those routes as well. They still use the same routes. It's not a new problem. But what we are saying is, what is it that the department is doing to make sure that these challenges that they're identifying, which I am contending that these are not new challenges. Now, there is also the other issue of forensic investigation and follow-ups on implementations and recommendations on slide 15. I'm particularly interested in terms of that to say, and also with what Honorable Mazwi Blosa was saying, can you give us the to-date expenditure across all the? I see the expenditures on the slide, but for instance, give us the expenditure inclusive of infrastructure and everything else of these BRTs in the different cities, and then let's see how that is, and then also the forensic investigations. What are the recommendations out of that? Have there been people that have been fired? People that essentially consequence management. That's basically what I'm asking. The other issue, Chair, is the issue of the faster rollout and incentivizing good performance. You've got cities that actually are doing something which is good, but then you've got others that are actually failing to do what is actually needed. Now, what are the incentives when we look at that to say those that are actually doing what is supposed to be done, and then what is the incentive? The other thing on the issue of the overhauling of the IPTN as proposed by the minister, when is this, or the review, as they say, which may or may not lead to the overhaul, when is this starting? And when they do start, are they hoping that they're going to come up with brand new programs to replace the IPTN and the non-performance of these programs? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mabena. Can we get to Honorable Makashune? Ghana?
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning, leaders. There's a benefit in making a contribution after my leader, Mabena, and Blosse, in that they will be expansive in terms of the points that need to be covered. So I start my input here, Chair, that there's no doubt that there is and there has to be a continued focus on the provision of a reliable public transport system. So that's something that we should become, in a way, one of our key focus areas. What is also not in doubt is that yes, we had ambition that we could roll out in equal measure as these bus rapid transport systems across the major cities. What we did not maybe account for is that these areas are different, and the issues are different to the points that the colleagues have raised. So whilst let's call it at the macro some of the issues are covered. What this does not tell us, it's if we start going into, we break down at the municipal level, you'll see that there are differences in the environment. So the environment in Cape Town will be different from eThekwini, and hence eThekwini does not perform in the way that we want it to perform. And I think sometimes we find ourselves wanting to use a one size to try to get everything done. What I'm interested in understanding, I think the points that Mabena and Bloss have raised in terms of the general performance of the grant. So we appreciate that you are telling us that this is the performance year to date. But if you were to go back and say the investment that has been made, this is what it has led to. I think that assist. And one of the things that are not, maybe we don't speak a lot of, it's just maybe the assessment of the operating companies in these buses and how sustainable they are, and whether they so in a quest for us to deliver a reliable, safe transport, it might very well be that these companies need to be continuously capitalized so that they can be sustainable. What is lacking from this presentation, at least for me, it's to look at how these operating companies, how they are performing, how sustainable they are. Because I do know, and Honorable Mabena will know, that one of the BRT, the Joburg BRT companies, faced a lot of difficulties, and I think they got closer to a liquidation or something to that effect. And I think we need to then ask ourselves whether we see our role as the disbursement of the grant, as the provision of the initial seed capital, if you can call it that. And then after that, then everything that has to do with the operating companies are being left to the respective municipalities, which I think in an ideal world, that would be desirable. But in the world that we operate in, including the challenges that have been faced, there's just not adequate capacity in some of the municipalities. That's why there's a continuous, I think Honorable Bloss was raising this point that no, it seems the stick that gets used is the withholding. And the reason you take out the stick is because there's no capacity, or that there's no alignment in terms of what we then do. It's to then provide an assessment, and this is an ongoing. And I don't want once the department is out, I'll raise other issues around ourselves. This has to be an ongoing priority issue. That the department must not feel that no, because today they've appeared on this particular topic, we'll have to wait for another 6 months for them to come to the committee. It has to be an ongoing engagement. So the next time we engage the department, we need to get some of the questions that we are asking, because we are saying that the report, yes, it highlights certain issues, but it's not adequate. Then next time, and it must be soon, the next time must be soon. It cannot be a delayed next time. It has to be soon. And some of the questions that, yes, top of your mind, Kibi, you can respond to them. but some of them require a bit more detail so that we can provide proper oversight and ensure that all these systems perform optimally. And we can be able, and not at all times have to wait for SCOPA to call people in for so forth. There has to be a load that ourselves as a portfolio committee we need to carry. And what has been lacking, now that I've been here for a year, has been that we touch here, we touch here, we touch here, we touch there. That at the end of the year, you say, all right, what has been our success? Is there one thing that we can point to say we've done right by it, and we have focused our energies on trying to get it right? And I will want to put to the committee and to the department that alongside Transnet, alongside PRASA, alongside SAA, SANRAL, and RAF, this is one of those priority projects that we need to or program that we need to continuously get an update on. And I had raised this issue even when the department appeared last week in the quarterly to say, there are certain things that must become a priority. The provision of safe, reliable public transport system has to be reported. We must break with the old. We can't operate like we are in 1999, and I feel like we are trying to live in 1999 when it's 2025, and the department behaves and is comfortable to behave in 1999 when we are in 2025. So it can't be. There has to be a change, and that change has to start with us. So I submit, the Chair.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Ghana. Let's move to Honorable Montana.
Thanks very much, Chair. Good morning, honorable members, and my greetings, of course, to the acting DG, Mr. Mokonyane, and our dear sister, Ms. Manana. Chair, I think that the acting DG started in the right way, given the history, and I want to start the history of this fund, and I want to start where he finished, or where he ended rather. The first issue, and this is very important because let me give my firm view before I ask you questions. I think we are far from an integrated public transport system in the country. In fact, if you look at what we did or what the country did between until about 2010, I think that there were notable successes and achievements. But I think now we are actually far from that. And I think this relates to some of the questions I would make in my own assessment. Of course, I also take note of the fact that, the presentations that has been made, and thanks for that, is very detailed. I'd ask some questions to the minister for written reply on this fund, including the fact that why we spend so much money on Cape Town compared to the other big cities. I'd requested that we be provided with the conditions for I think that Ms. Manana spoke at length about some of the cities not meeting the conditions, so we'd ask about these conditions. And thirdly, that we get the funding formula for the fund. So those I've asked to the minister, and if both the DG and Ms. Manana are able to comment on some of those, I think it would be helpful. But let me go back, because I think I want to make a point about why I think we are succeeding and why we are failing. In 2007, the then Minister of Finance, Trevor Manuel, announced what we call the Public Transport Infrastructure Grant, of rather fund, which was called the PTIF. And he put in a seed amount of 3 billion into that fund. Both the Department of Transport and National Treasury collaborated on this fund. And at that time, National Treasury had the view that this fund should be used solely for the municipalities. The Department of Transport fought against that to say, no, but you can't have this leading up to 2010 only limited to the cities. It's something that must be used to include rail. In fact, a third of the 3 billion rands actually went into rail, which explains one of the major successes for 2010. But I see that we've gone back to a formula that deals with cities to the exclusion of rail. This presentation is framed, on the one hand, when we talk about this, we talk about integrated public transport networks, IPTNS, but in real terms, it doesn't come closer to that, because when you talk about your IPTNS, and you say rail is the backbone of this, the way in which you're going to use this fund is going to be different. If you look at many of the railway stations and intermodal facilities that were built leading up to 2010, this PTIS fund was very important. It was later amended to become the Public Transport Infrastructure and Systems Grant. And then today, of course, that's what it is called, Public Transport Network Grant. And I think that part of the problem of what we have, it's government was misled. And by government, I mean government at national, provincial, and local level. It was misled that BRTs will solve our problems. In fact, the reason why Treasury was pushing this view about municipalities, it was made to believe that if you do BRTs, they won't require even an operational subsidy. There was an international advisor who was spreading this thing, and government bought into this false notion. And let's start. I mean, the presentation talks about 44 million passenger trips. Let's start there. The number sounds huge, but you see what the presentation doesn't tell us is what is the overall public demand in those very cities where these numbers are. You see, if you tell us about these are the passenger trips, you are not getting a sense of the size. It's because the size, you are investing so much money on BRTs. And don't misunderstand me. The BRT systems in the cities play an important role. And I think that this fund is crucial. But the way you are utilizing it has to have the kind of impact that you desire towards achieving an integrated public transport system. What we are doing, we are busy reinforcing the commuter transport, which is people going to and from work, and we subsidize that, but we are not creating integrated public transport. So from where I sit, from where we come from, we are not even anywhere closer. Why is this fund not having an impact? It has to do with the capacity of BRTs. BRTs are very limited in nature. In the peak hour, if they can't carry beyond 30,000 passengers. So in the peak hour, once they exceed that, then they'll become a train. So that is why that 44 million, if you look at it in relation to the public transport demand, you'll actually see that we're spending a lot of money for in a drop of ocean, because one important system, which is a BRT, is being so elevated as if it will solve our problems. And I think that it's very important that the department find a bit of alignment and not use, like in this presentation, we get this grant and the BRT is being used interchangeably with the IPTNS. The BRT is supposed to be one small element in the bigger strategy on public transport. And that is why, Chair, I want to make a suggestion that, consistent with what Honorable Bloss has said, that maybe at some stage, and I think that the Honorable Ghana also repeated the same point in a different way, that at some point, we have the department leading us on what is the public transport strategy that they're pursuing. Because I think that today we even though trains are mentioned there, taxis are mentioned, but in real terms, we are being told about the BRT system that has never worked in the country. And for National Treasury, if you look, for example, with REA, you'll see that the operational subsidy that they require to keep the system running keeps on going up. So the lie or the promise of a BRT system that would run on their own, and they will never work, because even if you compare with what Bogota did in Colombia, our cities are different. They're even different from European cities. We don't have the densities in South Africa. So I hear that the presentation says, let us, we are also going to overcome the apartheid special arrangement through this thing. We are not. In fact, we are reinforcing that. One of the major things in this system, I know that Ms. Manana emphasized the fact that the cabinet had said we must go to the townships, Mamelodi, and I see Cape Town is trying to do some other stuff. But the fact of the matter is that we are putting one system on top of the other. We are not integrating them. We are not choosing them. We are not saying which mode is best on this corridor and how is it going to integrate. That is why I think Honorable Mutubatsi was asking the question that where can I go where I find the systems working? So you are delivering infrastructure. In Johannesburg alone, you see that the Metro bus and the REA, or rather the Rea Vaya, are competing. You are putting where we put new infrastructure, for example, for rail. You want to put BRT to run parallel to that. There will be certain corridors where that is justified, but in most instances, it is not. But unless if we accept the important role of BRT, but its enormous capacity limitations, you're going to continue to make the kind of decisions that you are making. So I think that acting DG, my view is that that alignment becomes very important. And if the team can take us about the entire integrated public transport system, it will help us. Honorable Blose makes a very fundamental point, Chair, that if you look at the bus subsidy, in fact, the established companies which were subsidized under apartheid, not only Golden Arrow, Patco, you go to Nelson Mandela Bay, they took government to court. And I think that they remain where they are. They take a big chunk of that public transport subsidies. And you can't talk about integrated public transport without dealing with those commuter buses and all of those things that are there. So having made that point, so I think if you ask me, we are far from an integrated public transport vision that I think Ms. Manana outlined at the beginning. The things do not tally. We need to get that right, including the fact that the department must accept that if it wants to create integrated public transport networks in the country, it is vital that they also push and include rail as a key part of the kind of projects that they want to fund. Where, for example, some of the key stations become key integrating points for an integrated public transport. I mean, in Gauteng, it doesn't make sense. The Competition Commission had made a resolution that you need to look at greater integration between the Gautrain and Metro Rail. It's not happening. It's another question I've asked the Honorable Minister, that has she studied that report? Has she looked at what it needs? And if we do that, you know, for example, that you could use the BRT differently to fit into both Gautrain and Metro Rail stations. in Gauteng. You're going to use stations such as, what is it called? The one next to the airport in a different way. So I think that there are huge opportunities, but it requires a public transport strategy that you drive differently. So I would ask that the questions that I've asked the minister, perhaps the DG and Ms. Manana would touch on them. Why Cape Town, the allocation? What is the formula? What are the conditions? And what is the overall public transport demand in those cities that has been allocated money? And lastly, Chair, if we talk about public transport, the rural areas of South Africa do not have public transport. They rely on bakkies or people walking or on animal-drawn carts. Now, surely we've passed the 2010 World Cup. This fund, the department must make a call that it reflects the kind of integrated public transport vision that Ms. Manana eloquently articulated at the beginning of the presentation. And I think that some form of public transport, of course, the frequencies may not be the same. You factor in quite a number of things, but it's very important that we deal with these issues in a more integrated fashion as we approach them. So, Chair, that would be my view. But as I said, my main point is that if we look at where we are in respect of public transport or integrated public transport, we are actually, I think that when I take 2010, we had even regressed in a large way, in a significant way. And I think it's time for the department to look at this important grant, use it as a strategic tool to achieve its goals. And from where I'm sitting, I don't think we're doing enough of that. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you so much, Honorable Montana. Allow me to, in the meantime, when we are about to let the department come back, just I think the other thing, the department that you really need to start taking into consideration, especially for progress sake, these too much programs with no results. This alone can focus you, and you will find that you have got intention that looks good, but you can't achieve because too much resources are spent vastly instead of being channeled to one where you start this program and finish it. I don't want to be saying go to the taxi recapitalization, go to the new programs, but consider that to say too much programs are not necessarily achieving if they are not properly projected and implemented in a way that they achieve the goal in a given time. And we will end up having programs which are not finished. You see, we can't operate like in a wholesale where there's that item, finder. We need to come with a program that will say, for this financial year, it started here, it ended, it will assist. There is an outcry here, which we are not going to deviate from it, the issue of the city, Cape Town City, where it is clear that there's heavily pumped resources to the city, but the city itself is like it's got no intention of going the direction of transforming and accommodating even those who are outside the city. Yet these monies are going there. It means there, in a simpler manner, there's no political will. All what is there is just to ensure that we regress. And the other aspect is this issue of coming to the committee and tell us about the mismanagement of funds. At some stage, we must be told of what is it that has happened to that. We keep getting a list of people who have been suspended, people who have managed the funds. We want to get the list of those who are going to jail, because if we start doing that, people will take us serious. It can't be correct that ever since 5, 6 years, 10 years, there are people who have been found to be guilty, who have been alleged to have mismanaged money here, yet nothing is happening. Instead, there will be that commission, there will be that investigation, and It's not necessarily assisting. The other issue that you did not come clear in terms of conducting your education properly to the money, to the municipalities in terms of the usage of the grant and its implementations. I'm saying, as what I said earlier, the issue of programs, the very same issue. You pump resources to these people, then they lack capacity, as many honorable have said. But you must come here with a clear guidance of saying, this is the program that we are going to be taking or embarking on, and it is implementable in a way that you will start on Monday, end up on Friday. You will take it to practice. You will be able to monitor, evaluate, come back and say, it is usable. You can use it throughout the country. But if we'll just assume that those who are the municipalities, they understand your goal, then you keep quiet, you will be surprised. And we cannot run the department that way. To invite the department to respond on that, also checking the chair if he is not far. Let's invite the department. The chair will wrap up when it's done. Thank you. Department, DDG.
Chair, looks like the
chair's hand is up.
I'm sure.
Oh, no, thank you so much. Sorry, Chair, I never checked on my, what's on the screen that way. Come, Chairperson.
No,
Come.
I think you are in order to say maybe the department must respond, but the plea is more as they respond. I'm really observing time, and I've been observing how we've been trading in terms of time. Don't think we are doing well. There must be summative. I think the essence of what and my sister, the essence of what the honorable members are saying is that things can't go the same way. We really have to look into how best we make this thing work. We're pumping a lot of resources into these processes. We have done every other thing possible, but we have not done enough to follow the money and ensure that we provide the necessary intervention and support at the municipal or grassroots level to ensure that these things becomes practical, or this transport subsidy, we get value for money. We have not extracted enough value for money versus the money we actually put it. And I think that's the actual essence of what I hear honorable members to be saying. We are putting money, and also that the beating stick of just saying we will withdraw the grant is not enough, because at the end of the day, the intent, as summarized by both Honorable Montana and Honorable Ghana, the intent is to assist an ordinary person on the ground to move from point A to point B in the interest of improving the livelihood of our people, and also ensuring that our people are subsidized economically so that they can make a meaningful contribution to the economy. So if the only punishment that will be there will be, we will withdraw the grant, you would obviously punish the municipality to comply, but the ripple effect is that an ordinary person will be affected by your actions. So these are the things that we'll have to look at as you come in. But my plea, acting chair, was that they need to be, or standing in chair must be as brief as it can be possible in answering. Sure. If they can come in.
Can you come in, acting chair?
Yes.
Thank you very much to the honorable members and the questions. Kibi Manana is the Chief Director responsible for IPTNs and has been in the department for more than 15 years. So she's not new to the committee. But she's then also a DDG, acting DDG public transport. So I think ordinarily we do come with people who do the work to the committee. I needed to start the chair. We heard you. There are 47 questions. We're going to try and group them, because I think your last part, Chair, your last comment at number 47 really grouped the challenges and the issues that are really at the core of this the program. Chairperson, we are not calling for the implementation of BRT. Maybe we need to make that upfront. We are not calling for the implementation of BRT, and I've made that very clear. If there's one, Kibu can testify, if there's one person who has an issue with the BRTs, will be the person talking to the committee right now. Obviously, I think it's what Honorable Montana indicated, that we seem to be conflating issues around BRT and IPTNs. Chair, we're implementing integrated public transport networks, of which BRT is but a small component, and is guided by, like Kibi said, the typology. And Nicholas, maybe slide 14, because it sums up the way forward. And it talks to, I think there was an honorable member who talks about one size fits all, which is what we're saying. It won't work, it does not work. And that's why we need to change course. Changing course does not mean that we are retreating. Basically, if we've implemented a program for some time, and then there are lessons learned along the way, the issue is to pause, make an assessment, and if there's a need to redirect the program, we then do that. That's basically what we are saying as part of the way forward to say. And this issue around consolidation of funds and grants, we're not like doing it lightly, and have started recently around it. In the system, there's probably not probably, it's a fact, there's fragmentation of the pockets, the ports. Now, when you don't have enough money, you then have to consolidate and see how best you can deploy these resources. In the realization of this integrated public transport system. So, we're just indicating as a start the PTNG and the PTNG, and then takes a recap. But there's quite a number of pockets that purport to assist the transport costs, be it for infrastructure and our systems and operations. The Gautrain grant, operational grant, which is over $1 billion a year, as we speak. The PRASA money for OPEX. So if you are to then determine this in the pot, in fact, it's just around 40 billion per year for all the modes. If you were to take this 40 billion and say, this is my vision for an IPTN, where and how can we integrate? And we are not leaving rail behind. It's only that today we have said we must come and talk about PTNG. I think it would have been slightly different if it was come and talk to us about IPTN. So hence we're talking about rail in passage. But we recognize that rail should be the backbone. Of course, it needs to be informed by the volumes that they move. But also we then take into consideration that the rail might not necessarily be flexible. It does not complete the last mile. And it does not deal with the start of the trip. You need to move to a station. At the other end, you need to move to where your destination is. Be it at the shop floor or at work and any other thing. But the one big characteristic of the South African situation is we can't move away from it, which is something that can not only be resolved by transport alone. There's a transport planning and land use planning function. We will have that unique situation in South Africa where you have peaks in the morning and in the afternoon, and very little happens during the day. Very little happens. The trips are either social or other things. But the real trips that you we were to target happens in the morning. And that is why you will see out there in Pretoria, a lot of buses parked there at the Bella Umbra. And I think up the hill here in Cape Town, there are golden arrow buses parked following one another, waiting for the afternoon peak. That is the unique situation of a South Africa that is not like Bogota. It's not dense, where you have people going in and out of the system. Now, in a situation like ours, we are definitely going to have to put more into the system in terms of a subsidy, because you have to cushion what the commuter is paying. So transport system tend to be slightly costly when it is not that dense. Now that is why I started with what I said. We're not implementing BRT, because in such a situation, BRT systems defeats the motive and even the outcomes, because you are going to have a segregated lane, you call a BRT lane, and stations that are not used for most part of the days. And that's why you even are now seeing even vehicles park on the BRT lane, because they don't expect a bus at mid-morning or before the peak or after the morning peak. So that's why we are saying the infrastructure that the cities put should make sure that the assets, those assets, whether they are infrastructure stations and a piece of roads, including the vehicles, are sorted. And we get maximum out of the whole system. So I agree with those that are saying, and this is why we put slide 14 to say, we need to start to begin to say one size fits all does not work. We need to have a different approach. And we've been saying it for some years now, for some 7 years. And there are those that are moving, but they are moving very slowly. On another day, we'll discuss why we believe where we are. Cities are always planning and are always seems to be rolling out infrastructure and not necessarily going into operations. Now, Chair, it comes to the role of the spheres of government. We can hear, Chair, we are being given enormous responsibility. Unfortunately, some of them goes into the implementation phase, which is, we are very careful not to encroach around that because of the very nature of the scheduling of these functions in the Constitution. If we were to, and that is the argument we put forward at the start of the grant, Mr. Montana gave this right. We said, give us the money and allow us to go and implement. Well, that did not happen because they said the money is a purpose-specific grant to municipalities. One, but two, you must respect the space of those municipalities to implement. Fast forward to 2025, we are having all of these challenges, and all of these challenges are happening at implementation. The policy is there, the strategy is there. We have issued guidelines. We issued minimum requirements. We have consistently updated the guidelines to assist the cities. Unfortunately, some of those things are done by them. I've spoken about what I needed to speak about when it comes to procurement. To say, if these things were done by one person, even at a central point, we would not have had these challenges that we have. Chair, in total, pretty much those issues, Chair, if the Chair allows, because there were specific and pointed questions, we don't want it to be bringing them into in writing. We would have loved to have another session to deal with them, because some of them you need to talk to. Acting
DG, I think, as you quietly said, you've got a lot of these answers, tantamount to 47. Identify those that you will write, identify that you think they will be relevant for the next session,
We are all yours in terms of the session. You are accounting to us at any given time. We want full information. So to try and save time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chair, we shall provide the committee with a detailed expenditure since the start of this grant. We are 84 billion, and probably deal with that. And then we shall give the challenges details per cities. I'll touch the highlights because there was an issue around Cape Town that kept on coming in. Chairperson, it does not, and we will never favor any other city. What we do, cities, and when we do budgeting, they are invited to bring in, to provide in what they are going to do in terms of the plans. And based on the plans, that's when, and it's not the duty, we are with treasure on this, we then provide and do the allocations. Unfortunately, when the numbers are moved and the numbers are good and higher, obviously that is probably where the support would tend to mean they are going in there. But once we move the numbers, even the revenue collected from the fare box increases and makes it even to perform better. That is why we are forcing or are pushing all of these cities to get into operations so that we observe the operations, they attract patronage, they increase the revenue, they will be able to then, one, acquire more vehicles and operate more. So the situation around, and then there is an issue which has got nothing to do with the PTNG, which is called budget facilities, a BFI. The city of Cape Town took advantage of that, applied that, it is applied to directly to Treasury. Our duty is to say, does it make sense? And once we say it makes sense, then they are supported. That is how Cape Town was able to then get slightly more than what they do. But when we started, I said it earlier, that they they realize that they're not going to spend the money, they then proactively alerted Treasury and said, keep this money that you have either allocated or committed to us. We will use them in the subsequent years. In fact, when I mentioned it earlier on after we presented, I was kind of protesting to say, we cannot have money that is reserved for future use. It must then be used to those that are currently needing it. Whoever would have surrendered that money will be assisted at the time they then need to spend money going into the future. I said it like that. So, on the contrary, I don't think that Cape Town is getting that preference. But also, it does not necessarily mean they don't have problems. The N2 Express has got these challenges because part of what was agreed in the contracts with the taxi industry was the issue of capacity building and training of the taxi industry. Now, the 30%, 33% ownership by gaps. Part of the condition was that they needed to sort out, capacity of the taxi industry. And that's why the taxi industry are up in arms, because that never happened. But on the other side, we also raised the concern that on the N2 Express itself, you have my city and gaps moving parallel. The other one is getting subsidy, and gaps is there from the city, and then the other side is gaps alone. They are getting subsidy from the province. Now, the aim with an integrated system, Honorable Montana, was to collapse those things. You can't have gaps running parallel with the city of Cape Town, even if it is a few blocks away, but they are going the same direction, they're coming the same direction. The taxi people have had their taxis taken as part of the N2 Express contracts, taken away. And then they then became to participate in here. Not a single bus of gaps was taken and scrapped. So it does not necessarily mean that we don't have challenges in some of these cities, but we need to state the facts. The 19 million passenger trips are there. And the issue of EV, again, everybody who buys buses and they go EV, there is an incentive in financial form for decarbonization. It's not a City of Cape Town issue. And we encourage everybody that would want to buy this now. And in actual fact, what we are saying, stop the infrastructure, stop the BRT that we are being accused of implementing willy-nilly. Stop it, let's go into operation, let's go buy buses, and then we start moving people. And those that buy EV buses, which is now again in the transversal contract, will then benefit. Chair, I think, the eThekwini people, I think the honorable member who asked the questions, I think later on even attempted to indicate what the challenges are. It's basically that. The eThekwini people, the act is very clear. NLTA is very clear. It says, if you build an integrated public transport network, establish a route, and the existing operators, those operators must come into the system. Now, how do they come in terms of you establishing a vehicle operated company, VOC? You need to go surveys, and then the market share will tell you, the market share will tell you who should be the majority shareholders. Now, anywhere else where we showed the slide for VOCs, taxes are 100%. Now, in eThekwini, you have some 85% trips undertaken by the taxi people utilizing taxi, and then the remaining one, less than 20% by the buses. But eThekwini municipality wants to force a model that favors the buses at the expense of the taxis. Now, that is what we are saying. No, it is against the NLTA section 46, let alone 42 and 41, where you need to negotiate. So, on the contrary, here we are with the taxi people because we believe they are going to they want to give them the short end of the whole bargain. And it is very true, the consequences could be disastrous. They will never operate. They will be stopped from operating if they deal with that. But because the cities are the custodian of transport planning, municipal transport planning, and so on, that is the contentious area around eThekwini. And then withholding money, we don't like withholding money. Like I said, it's a process. We ask you questions, you reply, we say, but you can't do that. Please correct and do 1, 2, 3. You insist, and then we give you 120 days to comply. And you still don't comply. And then we withhold money, but still work with you. And then when the time comes, say financial year ends comes, that's where you have this sense that money is now redirected or held back permanently. But I think honorable members would not want us to continue paying tranches, paying grants, even where we believe that there's something wrong. And we don't stop. We work with those cities to try and improve. Lastly, very last issue, consequence management. Where we suspect or given information, so whether through whistleblowing, even through other channels, that there could be abuse of our finances, we then institute an investigation. So we've done it in Mangaung, we've done it in Rustenburg. We are probably going to do it in 2 more cities, 2 or 3 more cities. Then again, the rules of government. When the report comes, there will be specific recommendations. Our role there, according to legislation, will then have to go and table the the report before council and leave it with the council to implement. There are movements in Mangaung. We have met with the police, the Hawks, to give them our side of the story, because I think a case has been registered there. Disciplinary actions have happened, and Rustenburg, it is still at council level, getting processed. So there is therefore definitely movement there, and if they say wrongdoing, then we deal with those issues. Chair, apart from the statistics, the monies, the numbers, and the pointed questions, a PMU, the cost of travel, the formula used, I think those will then can provide a brief report in the next 7 to 14 days, Chairperson, to the committee. Thank you very much. I don't know if Kibi wanted to add, but I believe I've covered everything, and the rest we can do the non-writing section.
No, thank you so much. Colleagues, you'll understand that we have got rules. You don't just do. Allow me to call the chairperson and wrap up the report. Chair.
Honorable Malmat.
Yes,
Honorable
Chair.
Malmat, colleagues on the platform, thanks very much. I think to the extent that the department says they can provide further information, I think we should be able to then grant that so that whatever information they may want to still supply us with, we're able to supply. Secondly, we must agree that we must find a way to factor this continuous briefing on this particular grant as an important aspect of how we're going to be moving forward. Thirdly, let's agree that the department must, in a particular way or at a particular time, tell us about, as they'll be coming to report, how they intend turning around the situation as it is, because as we collectively agree, and I think the sentiment of all honorable members, Honorable Mabena, Blose, Honorable Montana, Honorable Ghana, yourself, and Adam Maduna, that we seem not to be extracting a maximum benefit in terms of value for money. Therefore, it warrants that we can't do things, if I'm to borrow from what Honorable Ghana would have said, we can't be in 99, or in this regard, we can't be in 2010 when we are in 2025. So we need to find a way of how do we then harmonize and deal with the situation in the interest of the users, in the interest of the public, but most importantly, in the interest of the economy, because the understanding we have is that whatever we do is how best we enable our people to participate fully in the economy by moving them from one point to another, from place of work back home, and from home to the place of work, from the place of trade, and so forth. So it is going to be very, very important, Mr. Mkonyane, that as you come in, you must start to reimagine and refashion how you are going to intervene in terms of turning the situation around. So by and large, I think for now, let's agree that the supplementary information will be provided where it is necessary, and then we'll be able to interrogate with that. Together with our support staff, we'll then look how do we periodically factor them to give us a continuous report in this regard. Thanks very much, Honorable Mamad. And I want to thank the department for proper responses until to this extent, and honorable members for engagement. If we could take another report, Honorable Mamad.
Thank you. Where are we, Secretary?
Are currently the two oversight reports that is on the agenda, as well as the minutes.
Will we be able to finish in the next, these two reports?
I doubt so, Mr. Malamaja. So the proposal to the committee could be to use the meeting of the 10th, when there's only one agenda item. There will be sufficient time to finalize those two agenda items, because the meeting is supposed to adjourn by 12:30, so it gives only 45 minutes to deal with those two bulky reports, and it's not sufficient.
Chair, we will like to get your guidance on this one before we start, because we don't want to do things for the sake of.
It will be,
Yes.
it will be unfortunate if we are going to have to stack on in between if we are to deal with the reports, especially the oversight reports. So I'll advise that let's defer them.
Colleagues, there is it. Any
I
contract view?
understand colleagues have other engagement, yeah.
No, Oh, champion, you are in support. Can we get a seconder?
It's still a champion one.
Yeah,
Chair,
no,
are we
let's
released?
give them.
Is the department released?
Yeah, remember after 10 years, let's give them the whole year. I would assume Montana you are supporting. So
Yes,
I give
yes,
this back.
yes.
No, thank you so much,
Seconded,
Chair. Just wrap our meeting, Chair.
Yeah, no, colleagues, thanks very much. I think I want to really appreciate the honorable members on how they state the cause, despite the fact that they abused time. I could see, I was timing all of you. Honorable Montana spent about 35 minutes on the platform. And then the other honorable member today who took his time was Honorable Plose. But I really want to appreciate all of you for fully and maximum participation in the meeting, despite the fact that it's virtual. Usually when we are on a virtual platform, members do not participate fully. But it's encouraging that we may have to look as we go forward to have most of our meetings on a virtual platform. But strictly in my part that less, as much as we are doing that, stick to time so that we can be able to exhaust our agenda. If you check, we've been deferring this report for the second time now. I think when we meet again, let's ensure that we consume it, consolidate, finish it, adopt it, so that we can move into other programs. With these few words, friends, compatriots, thanks very much. Much appreciation to our staff and to the department for even make this possible, especially our staff for making this virtual meeting possible in a very short space of time. Thanks very much. Enjoy your other engagement. All the best.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.